Welcome aboard one of the world's most spectacular railways. Norway's incredible Bergensbanen will depart here from Bergen, with our train immediately heading for Norway's fjords, offering stunning views of the river valleys and surrounding mountains. Next, our train will begin this steep and challenging climb into the mountains, reaching the highest and most extreme section of Norway's railway network at Finse. From there, we'll descend towards Oslo as I show you the full experience in first class and the train's many other great features, including the Café Car. So, join me in this video for 7 incredible hours on board one of the world's greatest train rides. Our journey begins at Bergen's Railway Station, right in the heart of Bergen, Norway's second largest city, located on the beautiful west coast. The current station opened in 1913 and is conveniently positioned in the city centre. It is also easily reached using Bergen's modern light rail system, which first opened in 2010. Well, at least normally you can, but on the day I was travelling, the trams were terminating one stop short for some reason, probably track works. Anyway, let's sit inside the railway station and take a look. Bergen is probably my favorite train station in Norway, as it still retains much of its original 1913's design, which has been beautifully maintained and seamlessly incorporated into a modern station that is still fit for the travelers of today. In the main hall, we find a few more of the station's facilities, including the ticket machines and a small ticket office with very limited opening hours. The vast majority of train tickets in Norway are purchased online nowadays. There's also a few shops and plenty of benches, as well as the station's large departure board. Our train today will be the 1537 service to Oslo, which is actually arriving now as an inbound service from the capital. However, after a long 7-hour journey from the capital, our train carriages are first pulled out of the station to the nearby depot in order for the train to be cleaned, the toilets emptied and facilities restocked before the journey back to Oslo. In the meantime, I simply enjoyed the beautifully sunny weather and saw one of these Stadler Flirt trains arrive. The Stadler Flirt trains are mainly used on local and regional services running frequently to Arna and slightly less often all the way to Voss. And occasionally you can even find them operating on some of the up to 6 daily long distance services all the way to Oslo. In the meantime, I went back to the station building to collect my bag from the station's lockers. But of course, while I was doing that was the moment they decided to shunt our train to Oslo back into the platform, so I didn't get a good shot of it arriving. Bergensbanen is operated by Vy, one of several companies running trains in Norway under its railway franchising model. Our train today will be hauled by this powerful EL-18 locomotive, which was built in the late 1990s and is capable of 200 km per hour. The locomotives were built by Adtranz and SLM and are based on the Swiss Lok 2000 family, which in addition to Norway was also exported to Finland and even Hong Kong. Many of the Norwegian locomotives wear the See Norway, Take the Train livery, and that's exactly what I'm hoping to do today. So let's finally get on board and get this incredible journey started. Today I'm traveling in Plus, which is the Norwegian equivalent of first class. But unfortunately the seats here are barely an upgrade over standard class, as you'll see later in the video. But for now, I just settled into my reserved window seat, and not long after, our train started moving at 15:38, running 1 minute behind schedule, beginning what should be an incredible ride over to Oslo. The first part of our journey takes us through the 7.7 km long Ulriken Tunnel running beneath the mountain it's named after. And after around 6 minutes underground, we arrive at our first station stop at Arna. This is where the scenery will really start to pick up, so as we now head into the next tunnel, let's first take a look at the route map for today's journey. We are on board train 64. Which will take us from Bergen into the fjords before climbing up to Finse, From there, we'll descend towards Hønefoss, where our train will take the slightly unusual northern route into Oslo Central Station because of engineering works along the normal route via the south. Journey time is scheduled to be 7 hours and 27 minutes, covering 460 kilometers, giving the train an average speed of 66 kilometers per hour. And here we are, welcome to the Fjords, where we are just passing by the Osterøy suspension bridge, the third longest of this kind of bridge in Norway. Our train is traveling along what is known as the Voss line, and is actually the oldest part of what eventually would become the complete Bergen Railway, opening as far back as 1883. There's also several small local stations serving the smaller villages along the route, including this particularly interesting station at Trengereid, where one platform curves around the mountainside while the other one continues straight into a tunnel. However, as this part of the line sees a relatively frequent service between Bergen and Voss, we can skip most of these stations, speeding up our journey to Oslo. What a challenge building this railway must have been, navigating and laying tracks on the narrow stretch of usable land between the water and the steep mountainsides. Right, let's take a look at the seats we'll be spending the next couple of hours in. The main benefit of Plus over the regular standard class seats are these large tables ideal for working, and they have this pretty cool hidden compartment to store items in, although it might be quite easy to also forget about them here. There's also more space to store items in the seat pocket in front, where you'll also find the seat's coat hook. The seat itself is equipped with a supportive winged headrest alongside a simple but good ergonomic design. There's a fine amount of padding in the base along with a slightly firm but supportive back, making the seat overall rather comfortable. In addition to this, you'll also find a movable armrest which is slightly padded too. If you need to charge your devices, you'll also find a shared power outlet below the seats. A bit of recline is also offered, and overall it's a comfortable seat, although it is always a little disappointing to see a 2+2 layout in the premium section of a European train. But to be fair, it is often only a small upgrade premium from the very good standard class on board these trains, and you do get a few other benefits too, both of which we'll get back to later. What a beautiful day I've chosen to make this journey on. And I was clearly not the only one taking advantage of the great weather. Outdoor activities are hugely popular in this part of Norway. In summer, you can go rafting along the river, while in winter there's plenty of skiing opportunities. That's especially obvious here at our next stop at Voss, where a gondola runs pretty much directly from the station platform up to the ski slopes in winter, and of course hiking trails in summer. Voss station sits at just 57 meters above sea level, but after leaving the station, the rivers gradually disappear and the railway begins its rapid and challenging climb into the mountains. Thankfully, our powerful EL18 locomotive makes light work of hauling our 9 passenger carriages up the steep hills. One of the main benefits of traveling in Plus is access to this small self-service area with complimentary hot drinks. So, to get your money's worth, make sure to grab a couple during the journey. For anything more substantial, there is also a paid Café Car on board, which we'll check out later. But for now, I made myself a cup of coffee and pondered over the delightfully Norwegian emergency equipment that includes a saw. We are now inside the over 5 km long Grauhals tunnel, opening in 1908. At the time, it was the longest tunnel in the Nordics and a major engineering feat for the Bergen Railway. At the end of the tunnel lies Myrdal, which is the junction station with the 20 km long mostly tourist railway to Flåm, offering what some people say are even more spectacular views than the Bergensbanen. We have already gained around 800 meters of altitude in less than 1 hour since we called at Voss, but our train's climb is far from over as we continue up towards the railway summit at Finse and the vast Hardangervidda Plateau, where the scenery is about to completely change once again. Much of the Bergen line is located inside these fake tunnels, which protect the railway line from the harsh outside conditions, especially in winter, where challenges like heavy winds and snowfall pose a huge risk to reliable railway operation. Hallingskeid station is even fully located inside one of these snow protection tunnels and serves a permanent population of just 0. The main purpose of the station is access to a few summer cabins as well as hiking and cycling trails. We have now almost reached the summit of Bergensbanen as we enter the Finse tunnel, opened in 1993 and stretching for just over 10 kilometers. The railway's highest point is actually inside this tunnel at 1,237 meters above sea level. Shortly afterwards, our train arrives at Finse, Norway's highest railway station, sitting slightly lower at 1,222 meters above sea level. Finse is home to a small year-round population, but there's no public road connection to the rest of Norway, showing just how vital this railway remains to the remote settlements along the route. Our journey continues across the vast empty mountain plateau, where even in the middle of July, patches of snow still remain. The flatter terrain also allows our train to reach some fairly decent speeds, as we slowly but surely begin the descent, stopping at another small mountain settlement along the way. Eventually, the emptiness of the plateau begins to give way to more trees and deeper valleys as we arrive in Geilo. I was traveling during the middle of a heatwave here in Norway, and that seems to have caused some issues and speed restrictions on the line ahead of us, so we'll have to see how that impacts us later in the journey, but for now, let's go and take a look around the rest of the train's interior. Most of the train is made up of carriages like this, featuring second class, which is also in a 2+2 layout, but with less legroom and mostly airline-style seats. You'll also notice that they are basically the same seats as the ones in Plus, but these ones have a different fabric, which I actually find a bit more soft and comfortable, and instead of the winged headrest, these ones have a soft and adjustable cushion instead. The only real reason I can see to upgrade from second to Plus is if you really need the large table or drink a lot of coffee. The train is also equipped with plenty of useful amenities, including this huge children's play area to keep the younger travelers entertained during the entire journey. There's even this former German couchette carriage with private compartments that are perfect for groups traveling together, with the rest of the carriage having been converted into a large multipurpose area for bikes, skis and other bulky luggage. There's also plenty of regular sized luggage racks found throughout the train, as well as several toilets. These were kept clean and in good condition throughout the journey. The toilet flushed perfectly without issue, and there was pretty good water pressure too. There's a working hand dryer, and there was plenty of paper towels and toilet paper, so it gets a thumbs up. And back here at my seat, our journey continues down into the valleys, where the weather has become noticeably more overcast. We'll soon make a brief stop at the surprisingly large station in Ål, located roughly halfway between Bergen and Oslo. This used to be one of the most important stations on the Bergen line back during the steam era, as most of the steam engines were not capable of making the entire trip from Bergen to Oslo in one go, and Ål became the station where they exchanged the steam engines. From Ål, our train makes its way down to Geilo, where unfortunately we end up having an extended stop, as the inbound train from Oslo is currently running around 10 minutes late due to the heat-related speed restrictions on the line ahead. The weather can change quick in the mountains, and no less than 20 minutes later, the sun is slowly starting to appear again, setting up for what should hopefully be a nice sunset later. I should also mention that these trains are equipped with free onboard Wi-Fi, but I could not get this to work at all during the journey. However, cell service along the route was actually alright. Eventually our train makes its stop in Flå, and this is the start of the heat-related speed restrictions, as our train will now begin to travel at almost a snail's pace in order to try and prevent the track from buckling. Temperatures today went over 30 degrees Celsius, which in Norway is far from common and is usually restricted to just a couple of days at the height of summer. But hey, I'm not complaining, just more time to enjoy the beautiful scenery, which is still great despite the best part of the journey definitely being over by now. Eventually we arrive into Hønefoss with a delay of around 15 minutes. This is where our train would normally take the curve heading south towards Oslo via the much more populated cities like Drammen, but that is of course blocked due to track works. So we'll be taking the line north instead via Roa that normally sees freight traffic only. At this point I was starting to feel a little hungry, and as we still have around 2 hours left before we are scheduled to arrive in Oslo, I decided to finally check out the Café Car. There are several different seating areas in the Café Car, alongside a pretty extensive menu of mostly frozen meals, snacks and drinks. I ordered myself a Norwegian Railway Café Car Classic and then found an empty seat. And here we have it, a Norwegian Café Car pizza. It is neither particularly cheap or particularly good, but I was feeling pretty hungry at this point. So I just sat back, enjoyed the ever-changing scenery and tried not to think too much about how much I just paid for a frozen pizza and a Pepsi Max. As our train now passes through Roa, we join the Gjøvik line, which will take our train the final bit of its way into Oslo. So I think it's about time we start summarizing the trip, starting with tickets. Tickets are dynamically priced based on demand and time of booking, and the best place to book your tickets are online directly with either V or on the Intour website. Tickets for the daytime trains start from around 300 Norwegian kroner one way in second class and around 600 in plus, but especially the well-timed day trains can often be considerably more expensive, so book ahead if you can. Overall, as we now approach Oslo, I have to say this has been an incredible journey. The Bergensbanen is truly one of the world's most spectacular railways, and I'm very glad that I finally got to experience it, especially on such a beautiful day. I would also love to come back and do this trip in winter, to see these trains battle the harsh snow, freezing temperatures and extremely tough operating conditions. Just remember, if you do this in winter, make sure to check the sunrise and sunset times, so you don't book a train that misses all the amazing scenery. In the end, our train actually arrives into Oslo Central Station a whopping 24 minutes ahead of schedule, thanks to a very generous amount of timetable padding on our diversionary route. Thank you so much for joining me in this video. If you liked it, make sure to subscribe to the channel, as I try to post a new one every Sunday. And if you want to give the channel a little extra support, consider joining the membership program. For just a couple of euros every month, you get early access to all my videos, as well as exclusive travel updates. To continue your journey, why not watch my video about another one of Norway's challenging railways by clicking the card on screen now. And as always, thanks for watching.